In October 2012, Capcom released what was supposed to be the ultimate triumph of the Resident Evil franchise. Resident Evil 6 was a massive game. It featured 4 interconnected campaigns, 7 playable characters, hours of content, and a production team of over 600 people, the largest in Capcom's history at the time. Capcom didn't just want to make a survival horror game, they wanted to make the Avengers level action in video games. They wanted the classic horror fans, the Call of Duty shooters, and the Uncharted cinematic action junkies, and the Millie Brawler crowd all over one gigantic roof. Instead, they delivered a game equivalent of ordering every single item on the buffet menu and blending it into a smoothie. Resident Evil 6 isn't just a flawed game, it is a masterclass in feature creep, total whiplash, and corporate greed. A game so identity confused that it almost drove the entire franchise into the dirt. Let's talk about why Resident Evil 6 is considered the absolute bottom of the franchise. One of the most annoying parts of Resident Evil 6 is there is this mechanic, it's called the quick time event. In RE4, the quick time events were spirally to keep players on their toes during cutscenes. In RE6 though, the agonizing parasite attached to almost every minute of gameplay. Want to open the door? Smash a button. Want to climb a rope? Alternate trigger buttons for 2 straight minutes. You want to survive a cutscene? Hope you're ready to jerk your analog stick at a circle, taking 2 steps in another explosion. RE6 constantly yanks the controller out of your hands. The camera focuses itself away from you to look at the helicopter crashing. Explosions knock you out flat on your back every 30 seconds. Environmental hazard prompts flash across the screen, and you spend less time actually playing the game and more time reacting to dynamic prompts like you're playing a high-budget Dragon Slayer. Here's the tragic paradox of Resident Evil 6. Hidden beneath the clutter is actually the most mechanically complex third-person combat systems Capcom ever created. In RE6, you can dive in any direction, fire from any prone position, perform stamina-based melee, and instantly quick lock enemies and parry incoming attacks with precise timing. In the Mercenaries mode, where you drop into an arena with tight spaces and clear objectives, this combat is absolutely shines. So why does it feel terrible in the main campaign? Well, because in the main campaign, the level design constantly works against its own mechanics. It's jammed directly on your character's back, obscuring your view so enemies can hit you from off-screen instantly. The enemies rarely react to being shot in traditional ways like the classic RE headshots in RE6. The enemies will frequently absorb full shotgun blasts to the chest without even flinching, making combat feel floaty and unresponsive. And the HUD inventory. Oh my god, the HUD inventory. Managing items in real life using horizontal tile system in a chaotic firefights is an exercise in frustration. Like, look at this shit, man. Capcom built a fluid, fast-paced action combat engine and threw players in a narrow, dark hallways filled with automatic snipers, bullet sponge boss fights, and instant kill hazards. The core failure of Resident Evil 6 stems from the total lack of vision. Rather than deciding what kind of game RE6 should be, Capcom tried to copy every popular gaming trend in 2012 and stuff them into 4 distinct campaigns. Let's start off with Leon's campaign. Leon's campaign is marketed as the return to the classic survival horror. Promisingly enough, pitch black university filled with traditional zombies, but within 45 minutes, the slow burn horror vanishes, replaced by infinite ammo pickups, scripted set pieces, and villain who turns out to be a giant fucking dinosaur. Then you have Chris's campaign, which drops any pretense of horror and transform into a second-rate Call of Duty clone. You're dunking below low walls, taking cover, shooting mercenaries with assault rifles, and calling all airstrikes. The problem? Resident Evil's engine was never built to be a cover-based shooter. Controls were clunky, the cover mechanic feels sticky and unresponsive, and the gunfights were lacking satisfying weight. The next is Jake's campaign, Albert Wesker's son, which tries to be the Uncharted meets God of War. It relies heavily on high-speed chases, kung fu melee combat, and being stalked by Nemesis knockoff named Bustanak. And finally, there is this Ada campaign, attempts to half-baked stealth, puzzle solving to tie all this messy narrative that the threads together. By trying to cater to the four completely different audiences, Capcom satisfied none of them. Fans were bored by the non-stop explosions, action fans were annoyed by the awkward mechanics, and the casual players were exhausted by sheer bloated length of it all. When Resident Evil 6 launched, it sold billions of copies on the hype alone. But the crucial and the audience backlash was swift and unforgiving. It proved that the bigger isn't always better, and that throwing more money, more campaigns, more explosions at the game doesn't make up for the lack of core identity. Yet, bizarre way, Resident Evil 6 is one of the best things that ever happened to Capcom. It's a dramatic failure that managed to force them to click the reset button and put back the survival horror genre in Resident Evil 7. Without the disastrous oversaturation of Resident Evil 6, we would have received the critically acclaimed RE7 and especially the remakes that we have today. Resident Evil 6 tried to be everything for everyone, and in doing so, it so became nothing to everyone. It stands as fascinating, the chaotic relic of 2010's gaming design, a bloated, exploding mess that pushed the legendary franchise into an absolute brink. So just to be reborn in ashes. Thanks for watching. What is your favorite memory or your biggest nightmare for playing Resident Evil 6? Drop a comment down below. If you liked the video, if you enjoyed this retrospective, subscribe for more deep dives in gaming history. See you next time.